Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. There's a lot of reports out there that Darvin Ham is going to be fired as a Lakers head coach, which means that there's going to be a vacancy for who's going to be the next head coach. So I was watching a segment just the other day on Gil's Arena. I believe it was yesterday, and it took me some time to find this clip. I think it was yesterday, the day before that. And they were talking about the Lakers for sure. And it got to the point where they were talking about, the Lakers potentially hiring a new coach. And then they started talking about JJ Redick. And I think the comments he said about Jordan, the era, and then they somehow, whatever, they were discussing that. Then it got to the point where Rashard McCants came up with a very, very, very interesting theory as to not only who he believes is going to be the Lakers head coach, but more importantly, why he believes that this particular person is going to be the Lakers' next head coach. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Rashard McCants had to say here. I want you guys to listen to it in its entirety, and then we're going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
JJ and LeBron start a podcast. JJ says he wants to be a coach. LeBron knows Darvin's ass and his days are numbered. JJ gets hired by the Lakers. LeBron is still a player. JJ get to coach LeBron. They bring in Bronny. The podcast thrives.
They're still doing the podcast.
How does that not make no sense? They ain't gonna have that. How does that not make sense? That was a good one. Hey, JJ, look, I'm gonna get you this job. Be going though. No, they gonna stop the podcast just to have JJ coach the team. Who else will you trust? He trusts. Now you sitting there talking X and O's with JJ. How would you do this, Jay? Hey, Brian, how would you want this? How you want this done? Hey, I would do it like this. Do it like this.
Player older than the coach.
Bro, they sitting there doing this themselves on TV. They showing us.
Right in front of us, huh?
Right in front of us. Scout. He coaching. He coaching JJ to be the coach.
But I'm saying they're probably been grooming him.
He's coaching him to be the coach, bro.
Hey, that's right before our eyes, though.
Right there.
Like, they talk about the game like, yo,
This is what I would do, LeBron. I'll give you the ball right here and let you work.
Yeah, but who's JJ gonna hire, though?
That shit sound good when you, hey,
You said what?
LeBron start fighting in there like this. It was JJ,
Get in line. Get in line.
Move around. Move around. Like, eh. So just looking at this Lakers roster, if I'm JG, I hire Bud.
Thanks.
Bring him in. And to your point, I don't think it'll happen, but you bring somebody like JJ in, it's really about who he assembles as his coaching staff.
But people be so scared of they like hiring somebody who's going to replace me.
So you heard what he had to say. Now, before I even get into what he had to say, I got to call out Gilbert Arenas real quick because he was hating hard on Charles. Like, he was hating hard on Charles Barkley because Charles Barkley told the truth. He was talking about the Lakers and Frank Vogel and Darvin Ham, and he was getting at people. And after they played the audio, Gilbert Arenas was like, I don't like him. No, because Charles Barkley, like, it's on the players. It's on the players. The players are the reason. Other people are the reason. So Gilbert listens to that, and then Gilbert Arenas takes it in a totally different direction. He goes, I don't really like him. He was like, where's your accountability when you didn't win in Houston, when you didn't win here, when you weren't coming up in shape or whatever, And I'm sitting there listening to Gil. I'm like, Gil, you're making his point. Charles is saying that it's not the fault of the coaches, it's the fault of the players. Then you're looking at Charles and saying, you're the reason that so-and-so didn't happen in your career. So basically, you're agreeing with him. He's saying it's the players, and you're saying it's his fault, or it was his fault as a player. So I didn't understand. I just felt like Gil wasn't feeling what Charles was saying. He just wanted to go at him for no reason. But the points he was making didn't make any sense because he was using the exact same argument that Charles Barkley was using, which was essentially, the players are the reason the team is playing bad. Let's look in the direction of the players. And he said the exact same thing about that. Now, let's get back to Rashard McCants' point about the Lakers possibly, about the relationship with LeBron and these guys, and then signing JJ Redick, and then them basically running the plays on the show together and doing all of that. Is there a possibility of this? Yes. Why? Because there's been rumors that have been going around for months now of JJ Redick possibly interviewing for certain head coaching jobs. There have been rumors about this. So this is not like as if, oh, this is just something we never heard before. No. the idea has been entertained. As a matter of fact, Stephen A. Smith cracked a joke about it about a year ago on TV when he heard that. So the idea of JJ becoming a head coach has already been floated around in the first place. Not the first time we're hearing this. So that shouldn't be a surprise. In terms of the angle that he's looking at in the Lakers and LeBron getting him, I think that could be a possibility. But then again, you got to look in the direction of the Lakers again, because now the Lakers, again, you're going to be hiring another rookie head coach to coach your team. This is a history that the Lakers have. 3 out of the last, I think, 4 coaches have all been rookies. Darvin Ham, Luke Walton, and now it's going to be JJ Redick. This is a pattern with the Lakers. So if it doesn't pan out with JJ Redick, you're going to have no one to blame than yourself. I think we need to start looking in the direction of the organization in terms of the Lakers, because they are the ones ultimately that are responsible for these decisions in terms of coaches and player personnel. Now you may have LeBron and these guys who may give suggestions, and I believe they gave the suggestions for them to go out there and get Russell Westbrook, and that didn't work out. And some people are saying they're no longer listening. But the fact of the matter is the Lakers are the ones still making these decisions. It's them. Through their vetting process, through their interview process, they come to the conclusion that, listen, these candidates are the best people for this job. Then you go get them, and in a year or two, you fire them, because no one wants to look inwards and say, hold up, we as an organization are effing up. So since we don't want to do that, we're not going to fire ourselves. Let's go ahead and fire the coach. You're not going to fire yourself if you're the CEO. You're not going to fire yourself if you're the president of basketball. So let's fire the coach. He's the most replaceable piece. Right? So to me, man, there could be an angle, and if it did happen, I won't be entirely surprised. Let me get into this right here. Boy, oh boy, did we have a very, very exciting game in the association yesterday between the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers, and I watched that game. It was entertaining from beginning to start, but especially in the second half of that game. I think we need to just go ahead and say it right now. Jalen Brunson is a bad boy. He ain't none to play with. And I picked the Sixers to advance in this series. I mean, not the Sixers, the Knicks to advance in this series. And I think I picked the Knicks to advance against the Pacers. I got the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference Finals, losing to the Celtics. That was my original pick for the Eastern Conference playoffs, right? I got some of my picks wrong in the Western Conference. But last night was a thriller, man, in Philly. It was an absolute thriller, and they made big play after big play after big play. And at the end of it, I got to look at the player of the game, and really the player of this series is Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson is a bad boy. So let's get into some of Jalen Brunson's stats these playoffs, man. This dude right here, first of all, yesterday, in that game, and it wasn't the only one. Josh Hart and all of them were making some big plays. Jalen Brunson, actually the Knicks starting 5, all of them were in double figures. Dante DiVincenzo had 23. Isaiah Hartenstein had 14 and 9 rebounds. OG Anunoby had 19 and 9 rebounds. He was doing his thing. Josh Hart has 16 points and 14 rebounds with 6 offensive rebounds. Yo, that is 6 offensive rebounds in that game. That was absolutely incredible. Let's get into, and Jalen Brunson finished that game with 41 points, 12 assists, and only 2 turnovers, shooting 48% from the field and 37.5% from the 3. Let's get into his stats. Let me see if I can pull up his playoff stats here, because this dude he's been absolutely balling here. This season, he is averaging in the playoffs in 6 games for the Knicks. Get this, 35 points a game. 35.5 points per game on 43% shooting from the field, 30% shooting from the 3, 77.8% from the free throw line, while getting you 9 assists, 4.5 rebounds as how tall is he? 6'2" point guard, and getting you 0.7 steals a game with only 2.8 turnovers. I want to get into some of his numbers in this series here. We got to talk about it. Game 1. I want to see how many points he scored in game 1. In game 1, he finished that game. Let me see what he got in game 1. He finished the game with 22 points. That's what he scored in game 1. In game 2, this is when the Knicks went up 2-0 on the series. In game 2, he scored 24 points. In game 3, this is the game where the Philadelphia 76ers, they came back and won that game. He scored 39 points in game 3. Game 4, just listen to these numbers. Game 4, he goes out there and scores 47 points, which I believe was a New York Knicks playoff record. Then, game 5, get this. Game 5, he goes out there and he scores, what did he score? Tyrese might have 46. He had 40. So those are 3 straight 40-point games. And last night, he finishes that game with 41 points. So Jalen Brunson had 4 straight games of 40 plus in a playoff series. 40 as a 6'2" guard playing for the New York Knicks. Oh my gosh. You can't make this up. You cannot make. He is one of the best players in the playoffs right now. And if you consider his size and what he's doing at his size, it's even more remarkable. And the Dallas Mavericks made a huge mistake, at least now, it looks like, of letting go of him and not paying him that money that he wanted. Because look at what he's doing with. Imagine if he had another legitimate scorer. Like a legitimate guy that can go get you 25 a night. Just how good the New York Knicks would be. So what he has been doing, man, is absolutely incredible. And I love it for the New York Knicks. If I'm being honest, I grew up in New York. I love it. Let the Knicks do well in the playoffs for a change. And now they're about to have another classic series against the Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. And you remember those battles that they used to have with Reggie Miller and all of these guys in the past. We're going to have that again. And I hope it's a chippy, exciting series. There's nothing like when the New York Knicks are doing well and Madison Square Garden is rocking. I absolutely loved it. It was a hell of a game. He wasn't the only one that played well in that game, but it feels damn good to see the New York Knicks do well. So shout out to Jalen Brunson, man, for having a beast mode series, and I think he's going to keep it up in these playoffs if he continues to remain healthy. So these are my thoughts. Let me get into this topic here. So this is a topic that I came across. It was actually suggested to me on my homepage on YouTube, and it was an episode or a clip, from the sit down from the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James and JJ Redick. A podcast is doing very well. I think they're heading towards 600,000 subscribers, and I think they're going to be at 1 million in no time. So obviously it's a well thought out, organized podcast, and it shows that it's something that LeBron really wanted to discuss, because the guy, I'm sure, could be doing 1,000,001 things and decided, hey, I'm gonna X out a block of time to dedicate to just talk basketball on this podcast here. So kudos to them. So there was a particular clip, and it had a thumbnail about LeBron says hell no to analytics. Now, if you guys know anything, analytics has taken over the NBA. All right, it's taken over the NBA, and it really started with Mike D'Antoni and these guys, but now it seems to be the new wave, especially with the advent of the Stephen Curry Splash Brothers with Klay Thompson and these guys, and them experiencing championship success. So knowing that the NBA is a copycat league, all the other teams started following suit, and now teams are averaging above 32 to 33 three-point attempts per game. And just to put that into context, in the late 90s, teams were averaging less than 15 three-pointers a game. So just imagine how far the NBA has come in terms of this advent of the three-point ball. So during this particular clip, they were talking about essentially the power of the transition three off of a fast break. And they were discussing, coaches always tell players, wide out. Instead of running to the basket, you now run to the corners to get the 3-point shot. So they were discussing this. And then in the midst of discussing this, LeBron, who's listening to JJ Redick paint the picture, he then gets to a point where he's listening to the numbers, and then he brings up the situation with the Houston Rockets in the playoffs. And you could tell that this way of thinking with the threes has become so dogmatic that it takes out the common sense out of basketball. And it got to a particular point in the conversation where LeBron says there's going to come a time where you have to say F no to analytics. And I thought it was beautiful, because we needed a person of this stature to come out there and say something like this. So for those of you who didn't hear LeBron James comment on this, want to play what LeBron had to say about this now, and then want to come back and react to LeBron James's comments. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
Let's call 18 to 24 seconds on the shot clock. Let's call that early shot clock. Yep. Okay? First 6 seconds of the shot clock. In 2014, 2015, the average team for this season took 322 total threes in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock.
Okay. What is this? You said 13, 14?
Yeah,
okay.
14, 15.
15.
Five teams attempted below 200 total threes for the season in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock.
Yep.
Last season's data, that number was up by 100 total threes. Basically 420 total threes.
Yep.
Half the league attempted 400 or more total threes in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock. That's the other thing that has changed the most, is when you get a defensive stop, and I don't care where the you are on the court when you get this stop, where are people running?
Yeah, run wide. That's all you hear.
Run
wide
to the three-point line.
That's it.
Okay, right? So these early shot clock threes, you know what the average effective field goal percentage on that is? Same thing, 55%.
Really?
It's a good shot. I
can't wrap my head around it. Am I too old school? I don't want to say old school, but am I too still like in my ways of?
Okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm gonna give you something here, though.
Zero pass shots.
I'm gonna give you something here, though. I'm gonna give you something. You got guys running wide.
Correct.
Running the corner. This is you with the ball.
Yeah.
This is Giannis with the ball.
Yeah.
This is Ja Morant with the ball.
Space.
What does that give you?
So much space. Early attacks.
There's a reason that you motherfuckers are averaging like 10 fast break points a game.
Early attacks.
This shot is worth 1.5 more than this shot. If you can make it.
If you can make it.
If you can make it.
So what happens when?
No, the value of this versus the value of this versus the value of this.
So
right.
So what happens when?
Why do you think you guys have a good offense?
Houston Rockets missed 25 or 28 straight threes.
Have you seen it happen since?
I have not. How many did they miss in a row?
27.
27 straight threes.
27.
And they kept shooting them.
Yeah.
It's not like all of them was only three-point shooters. It's not like they had 5 Craig Hodgeses on their team or 5 Steve Kerrs on the floor, where that's all they can do is shoot threes. They had guys that can, Eric Gordon, you can get into the paint. James Harden, you can get into the paint.
But you're making a valid point.
Well, why?
You're making a valid point, and I want to acknowledge your point. You still have to be a basketball player. You still have to read the game.
That's all.
You still have to understand.
That's all I ask.
Time and score. So
there's a time and place where analytics should be like, get the out.
Yeah.
So you heard what LeBron James had to say there. First of all, I love what he said, because as LeBron was listening to JJ go through the numbers, he said, but wait a minute. Basketball is a game you also think. It's a game that you think, and sometimes you have to think the game. For example, if you're so bought into 3s and 2s, guess what you miss out on? Number one, not exploiting mismatches. Because, for example, you may see a player like Joel Embiid standing at the 3-point line taking 3s. That's a bad shot. Why? Because Joel Embiid is more of a threat when he's posting up. Because with post-ups, you can collapse the defense, you can draw double teams, you can get the hockey assist, you can get players moving, you get the strong side, you load the strong side, and all type of good things happen. But whenever you now become so focused on shooting 3s, number one, you take away that threat. Number two, you take away your size advantage. And number three, by you standing further out by the 3-point line, if a shot gets missed, guess what? Chances of you corralling that offensive rebound totally disappear, unless you have some guys that can really box out, right? So to me, there's a time and place for analytics, and I'm glad that LeBron said this. Sometimes you have to think the game, and I think at times it doesn't happen. You've seen scenarios in which teams are on a 3-on-1 fast break, one defender's back, and they're running out to the 3-point line instead of running for the easy 2. That's dumb basketball. I don't care how you slice it, because the strategy that you deploy, also you should have a contingency where, okay, certain situations must dictate certain actions. It can't be, we're going to run this, we're going to run this, we're going to run this, regardless of the situation on the court. That just doesn't make any sense. And that's what LeBron was saying. He said, listen, these guys missed 27 straight threes. Don't you think it was time to try something? Maybe after 15, try something different. And finally, people keep talking about the three-point shot and all of this. One of the most dangerous and hardest shots to guard in the NBA is a mid-range jump shot, pull-up jump shot. In fact, if you're a great mid-range player, you're going to feast in these playoffs because teams are going to be closing out on those threes. You're not going to get that open space that you get in the regular season. That's why you see a lot of those guys, for example, Norman Powell, who's hitting a boatload of three-point shots in the regular season, is not really getting those looks in the playoffs. So if you can get to that mid-range, if you can pump fake, dribble, pull up, shoot, you can be effective. That's why you see players with like Ant Edwards, Kawhi Leonard, and so many other great players. You see players being able to play out the mid post, high post, like Luka Doncic, like Nikola Jokic. These guys are effective. They're not just 3-point shooters and guys standing at the basket ready to get a layup. So to me, man, I am very, very happy that LeBron James went out there and said that. Because this analytics thing is beginning to get too nauseating to the point where it's just one big 3-point shooting contest. And to me, listen, I like the three. It's exciting, but come on, every single time, come on, man, it's a little bit too much. These are just my thoughts.